West Ham won, Aston Villa won. A frustrating result. I'm going to go as far as saying frustrating. I know that a lot of the fan base are saying it was a disaster, it was horrendous, and 2 points dropped. And they're right, it was 2 points dropped. You could look at it like that. But at the same time, I don't think the performance necessarily, gives off the statement it was a disaster. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't a bad performance. It was just an opportunity missed. Riley, mate, before we sort of go into talking about the SCAMACCA situation, I just want to get your thoughts on the game. I know you were actually a bit busy at the time, but I'm assuming you've sort of seen some bits and pieces of it now. What were your thoughts on the performance and the result?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the highlights and I've heard different things from different people. If ever I miss a game, I'm always on Twitter trying to get like a consensus of how the game's kind of gone. And, a lot of people do see it as like 2 points dropped. Some people do think we're a little bit sort of lucky to get to get the draw. I know Villa had their chances. I know we had our chances. But ultimately, I think it's a good result for us. I didn't really think we'd actually be able to beat Villa coming into the game. I thought we were going to lose 2-1. Obviously, I didn't do the preview with you, Mark, unfortunately. But I did think we were going to lose the game. And it is quite frustrating that around us, teams are picking up points where they shouldn't. Bournemouth beat Liverpool at the weekend. Everton beat Brentford. Leeds did what we couldn't do, and they drew 2-2 to Brighton. So the pressure was definitely on to get a bit of a result. And obviously we concede early, which is never a good thing for us. And it seems to be a big issue with us is conceding early and having to react off the back of that. But Paqueta wins a penalty fairly enough. Benrahma slots it away. I think Benrahma had a terrific game for us. The only question is, in the last 20 sort of minutes of the game, we didn't look to, like you said, go for the jugular. We didn't seem to make those devastating changes. Danny Ings had a pretty quiet game. Why not chuck on someone like SCAMACCA early on in the game for a bit of build-up play? Or if you did want to chuck on Cornet, why not do it, 15, 20 minutes earlier? It does seem a little bit backwards from David Moyes when the game is 1-1. And, if we're chasing it the last few minutes, can you honestly tell me that you'd be that upset with losing a point against Villa when, you've got the potential getting another 2? Every single point matters in this relegation battle, but realistically, we need to be going for games. We need to be winning our home games, especially when you look at the fact that we just lost 4-0 to Brighton.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was. You're right, exactly in regards to the other results. I think they added a lot of pressure to it. The fact Everton winning and Bournemouth winning really didn't help going into this match. It added that pressure. Look, overall, I'm actually not that disappointed, that angry about it. The reason I'll say that is because, one, like you say, we went down to an early goal, which is very typical of us at the moment. We seem a bit fragile. We just seem to switch off. It was a bit of a poor goal to concede. But what I'm pleased about is that we didn't crumble. For a team in our position, that could easily have happened. And the crowd could have easily turned on Moyes. It could have turned really nasty, but it didn't. West Ham responded actually pretty well. I actually thought overall we were the better team. I think Aston Villa would be certainly happier coming away than we were. I think they thought we could have lost that game, which I think is a good sign. So I'm not seeing it as a complete disaster. A disaster would have been us losing 3 or 4-0 to Villa at home and then thinking, oh my God, we are absolutely facing relegation. I thought we played quite well. I was pleased with some of the individual performances. Like you said, Benrahma was very good, very effective. I thought that Bowen had one of his best games probably this season for us. I thought he was very, very lively, really up for it. Danny Ings was pretty quiet, though. That was a bit of a shame. He struggled, but he did make some very good runs and was trying to cut him behind. He was just struggling. The service just wasn't quite there for him. But overall, I thought it was a very decent performance. I quite like this new position with Souček. I think it's working really well. Him going forward, you can just see he's far better suited to that role. Paqueta, another player, I would say, one of his best performances in a West Ham shirt. So overall, I actually thought it was an overall decent performance from West Ham. But like you said, when we were talking about this off air, is that my frustration was you're watching the game thinking, right, Moyes, you can see like the second half, okay. First half, I think was evens. I thought it was fair. I thought it was fair enough. Everyone come off 1-1. I thought that's a fair result. And there was that nerve of thinking, oh God, I hope we come out and we continue the way we're going here. I actually thought that we were miles better than them second half. I thought we were really up for it, played some good football. And I actually felt that Villa were backs against the wall. You could see they were anxious, starting to worry, they were making mistakes. That is the point where I think Moyes lacks. And that's the point where he just doesn't seem to ever recognise this and go, right, They're up against the wall here. They're wobbling. Let's go for the jugular. Let's go and get the winner. We can win this game. He doesn't. He sits back. He waits. He waits. I never really know what he's waiting for. And then he makes decisions right at the end of the game. And you're going, well, it's too late. You know, what's he going to do in 7 or 8 minutes? Like, give him half an hour. Give him 20 minutes. Give him a little bit of time to make an impact in the game. I'm talking about Cornet here, who I thought looked pretty good again. But you know, there you go, mate. 1-1. It's a disappointing result. I won't lie. I mean, obviously, we're only out of the bottom 3 on goal difference, and now everyone else is going to play again this weekend, and we are not playing because our game against Man City has been postponed. So it's not ideal. The situation isn't ideal. However, on the plus side, you look at our next run of games. We've got a lot of home fixtures coming up, starting with Southampton. You know, that let's be honest, that's a cup final. We must win that game, and then followed by Newcastle at home. Probably not a bad time to play in Newcastle. They see their season's starting to wobble a little bit. So you'd imagine we probably can give them a game. Now, if we can win those 2 games, which really we have to now, I think we're in that situation this season. We have to win both those matches. The season, the table will look very different. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but I'm not going to moan about it too much. But the big talking point, mate, is SCAMACCA. It just feels like history repeating itself. It really does. It just feels like we've got another striker we spent a lot of money on that he's not settling in at West Ham, not settling into the system. Manager clearly doesn't seem to like him. What's your thoughts on it, Riley? Before we get going deeper into it, what is your thoughts on this whole SCAMACCA situation?
It's really frustrating to me, Mark. It is. I mean, I don't get the mind of David Moyes. I really don't. I mean, fair enough. I think Brozier was probably his number 1 transfer target, but I feel like when Moyes came in and was doing the bidding for SCAMACCA and for Brozier, he kind of felt like he actually came away with the better deal by signing SCAMACCA. I think it took him like 2.5 years to get his man. He's now got his man, and he's choosing a £13 million Premier League proven Danny Ings for 90 odd minutes instead of just chucking on SCAMACCA for the last 20. I'll understand it if things was on a bloody hat trick and you're thinking, well, he's going to look like he's going to score, but just try and change the game. That's the whole point of having different types of strikers. Try and chuck on SCAMACCA and see what they could do. If we're penning them in their own box and you've got someone like SCAMACCA on the edge of the box, we've seen he can release actually thunderbolts from the edge of the box. And it just, to me, it just highlights David Moyes' man management, which is just completely piss poor. It always has been. It's how we've lost players like Elise, Ashby, Vlasic, Krau. I'm not saying Krau's a great player, but the man management there was horrendous. Ben Rama, another one who was almost forced out of the club, and look how well he's playing this season. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't really get the mind of David Moyes. I don't get why you and most of these players are players he signed. He signed off on Ben Rama. He signed off on Vlasic. He signed off on SCAMACCA. He signed off on Haller. I don't understand. Well, we didn't sign off on Haller, sorry. So that's kind of a little bit more understandable. But I just don't understand why you would sanction a player, bring him into the club, and then just refuse to play him and come up with these bullshit excuses like, oh, his fitness isn't there. He's not as strong as he's supposed to be. Fucking Cornet has been injured for 4 months? Yeah. And you're telling me he's more physically fit and more up to speed with the game than SCAMACCA, who's been injured for a month, maybe like a couple of weeks. I mean, it's just it's complete bullshit. And it's the same thing that happened with Haller. It was wrong player, a right player, wrong system. Sorry, we've brought in a player who doesn't fit the system, but you've now got to adapt to the system. We spent £35 million on him, spent 40 odd million pounds on Haller, and if SCAMACCA goes to another Premier League club or a PSG or somewhere else, he's going to bang in goals. He's going to score so many goals for them, and we think to ourselves, why can you do that West Ham shirt? It's horrendous, and it's so poor. I mean, look at SCAMACCA's body language at the end of the game. He looks defeated. His agents left him. Obviously, it's all up in the air a little bit now, but I think he'll be gone in the summer, and it'll be a real shame because, number one, it means we're going to have to wait another 3 fucking years for Moyes to sign off on a striker that he won't want anyway. Two, because I actually think SCAMACCA is a really brilliant player, and he's only 23 years of age.
Yeah, it's baffling, mate. It really is. Unfortunately, it feels like all our fears in regards to another flop striker, and I'm not having to go at the player here, I'm just talking at West Ham, just feels like it's coming to fruition again. all the same signs, all the same pattern of what we keep doing. And we need to look at why this keeps happening. There's got to be a fundamental reason, and we can't just keep continually blaming Moyes. I think, don't get me wrong, he is to blame in a massive chunk of it. Like you say, his man management is confusing. I don't really understand what's going on. The question also had to be put towards the footballer himself. I don't really understand. If the case is, if Moyes is what he's saying, like you've alluded to there, mate, regarding his fitness, and he sort of said his stats aren't quite there and all these kind of things. Basically, I think what he was trying to say there, so he's lazy, he's not working hard enough in training, he's not producing enough work to warrant starting. I think that's what he was trying to allude to, I think. But, well, then get your bloody recruitment right. Why do we continually keep going down this path? The same mistake over and over again, where we go, right, we need a striker. Let's just go and bid for 30 of them, see which one comes back in, and we'll go for that one that gets accepted. And that's what we're going to do. They didn't want SCAMACCA. They wanted Brozier. That was the player they identified and said, he's our number one target. Realised we weren't going to get him, and fuck it, we'll go with someone else then. I don't know. I just think it's got really worrying signs here. Like you say, and I would not be at all surprised now to see SCAMACCA leave this summer. I wouldn't be. I hope he does stay. I hope they can sort it out and get him playing, because we can see what a good player he is. He's demonstrated it. It's a strange story for him this season, because I appreciate injuries have hampered him. But I mean, we talked about this a lot of times, that Moyes has his like trusted players, his players he always seems to lean on when times are tough, And you can just see SCAMACCA is not part of that. He is absolutely out of that circle. He's no way. Moyes is not a favoured player at all. I mean, Moyes even said the other day, I think it was after the Larnaca game, went after Antonio scored those 2 goals, and he said, well, that's great for Antonio. That's what you want. You want your striker scoring. I just want Danny Ings to get there as well now. Didn't even mention SCAMACCA. He's a £35 million, your major summer signing on the bench, that's Italy's number one striker, and you're not even mentioning him in the same breath as saying, in your striker category. That shows where he is in Moyes' mind. I don't think he's part of Moyes' plans. I think Moyes wants to get rid of him. I think that's where this is going. I'm really, really confused by it. I mean... and so disappointed, because we were talking, weren't we, ourselves not long ago, and saying, getting a bit excited about SCAMACCA, and he's shown some really good signs of a decent player. We might have finally found ourselves a very good striker. And then here we are again, a few months down the line, and we're talking about him leaving. It's really, really disappointing. And I know that ex-WHU employee is going to provide an update on it. And he did previously when the whole agency situation came about, and they said, actually, it's quite common for players to change agencies. That's all it was. It was nothing to get too alarmed about. And then he spoke to people at the club and said, actually, the player's really happy. Well, let's be honest, mate. We've seen images. We've seen the pictures of SCAMACCA at that ground. He is not happy. Like, why would you be happy? Why would you want to be in a relegation scrap in a team you can't even get in? I mean, he didn't come to England for this. He must be on the phone to his new agency going, get me out of here. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
His body language doesn't seem like the type of body language to where he's been told by Moyes, you don't run enough, you're lazy, you're not going to play. He's not sitting there like thinking to himself, I've got to start, pulling my weight a bit in training. He looks just dumbfounded as to how he can't get on a Premier League pitch with, he didn't start against Larnaca. I mean, put that into context. You're £35 million striker. You're thinking to yourself, right, who needs a bit, let's say he doesn't run enough and he needs to get his fitness fucked up. Why did you play him for 90 minutes against Larnaca then? It just makes zero sense. Why would you not play a player who, A, needs fitness, and B, needs confidence in a game where he's much more like, SCAMACCA could easily have scored 2 goals in that game, be up and running again, sort of get his momentum up again. But instead, Moyes chooses to play Antonio, probably again because he wants Antonio to get his momentum up and feel a bit better about himself after being on the bench for a while. And it's like, well, which is it then? He doesn't run enough, so he never ever plays, or he's not fit enough, or he doesn't score enough, or he doesn't fit the system. It's just such stupid excuses from Moyes, when the real issue is, I signed a player I don't want, he doesn't fit my system, so now I don't want to play him. But he's not going to come out and say that, is it? He's going to blame the player. Same thing he's done with Ben Rama, same thing he's done with so many players at the club who's left. It's so frustrating, mate. It really is. And I think it's almost just, unless an Ings get injured or Antonio gets injured, I don't see SCAMACCA being part of our Premier League plans. And we're in a bloody relegation battle, mate.
Mate, it's bizarre. It really is. It's bizarre. It's frustrating. And dare I say, I mean, this is another big mark against Moyes' name. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm the owner of West Ham, not only now am I very concerned and very frustrated and probably very angry at the situation of where we are in the league, because let's be honest, relegation is a very, very real possibility. It's not a joke. It's not something that West Ham, oh yeah, be fine. I mean, I've still got a little bit of confidence we will get away from this. I still not saying we'll get away from it like comfortably. I still think we'll manage to survive it, but I'm talking very, my confidence is waning. But if I'm the owner, I'm angry at David Moyes for being in this position, looking at him thinking, why are we in this position? And this sort of SCAMACCA situation is just another reason. It's just another problem highlighted by, in my opinion, the manager. Like you say, the man management, where is it? It's just non-existent. Like, David Moyes, you signed this player. You signed off this. You said, yes, I want this £35 million Italian striker. Stop acting like these players have been dumped on you and you don't know what to do with them. And it's like, oh, you're inheriting a load of shit. You picked these players. You picked Lucas Paqueta, and now you're then going, well, he's not number 10. It isn't really working out. Well, fucking, you should have done your homework then. You shouldn't keep acting like these are all... He likes to play a victim card quite a lot, Moyes, as if like he's not had much backing, or... I wouldn't say actually not much backing, but always acting as if like... I don't like the fact he keeps alluding to the fact that we should be quite grateful for the last few years, and West Ham fans should, we're back where we belong kind of attitude. That's really poor, because West Ham have spent a lot of money on that manager and backed him quite a lot. So I don't like that. But the fact is, he signed off on SCAMACCA. And if he's not in his plans, then the question has to be raised, why? Why is he not in your plans? Like, he's fit. SCAMACCA's been fit for a good, best part of a month now. Like, I mean, he's been full training for a long time. He was on the bench at Tottenham. He's been around for quite a while now. So I don't really buy into this, that he's still getting his fitness back up. I just think, like you say, Riley, I think the problem is more than that. I think Moyes just doesn't like him. There's a problem. There's a real issue again. And the question has to be raised to David Moyes again. Once again, there's another mark against his name for me. It's worrying, really worrying. And I sadly can only see this going one way. I don't see SCAMACCA being here next season. I just don't. I think he'll be gone in summer. If I was him, I'm sure he'll be crying out to his agent saying, get me off, get me away from here, get me back to Italy. This isn't working out. And West Ham will be once again licking our wounds and probably going to take another £20 million hit, no doubt, on that. And then once again, but like you say, Riley, go back to the old bollocks drawing board again and go, right, let's try and find another striker in the world that we're going to fuck up, because that just seems to be the West Ham way. We just don't seem to we don't know how to recruit. We just don't know what we're doing. I've always wanted someone to come and replace Antonio. You need so if you're going to replace someone like Antonio, you need someone fast, powerful, gets in behind, and all right, can finish. Not ideally what Antonio's known for, the finishing, but that's what I'd be looking for in a striker. When do we ever get that? When do we ever buy a striker that's like Antonio? Never once. And Ings is nothing like Antonio. I mean, all you go through the list, Hilaire was nothing like Antonio. SCAMACCA's nothing like him. It doesn't work. But yet he likes to play a system with Antonio being the main striker. It's like, well, just go and find a fucking striker then that plays that kind of system. For instance, perfect example would have been Ollie Watkins. Would have been perfect for West Ham. Fast, gets in behind, is a good finisher. Why didn't we go all out to get Ollie Watkins when we could have done? And we didn't. We sat back. We didn't do it. It was too much money. Dilly-dally, didn't do it. And now he's at Villa, and let's be honest, he'll be out of our price range. So that's my frustration. I just don't know why we don't identify players. Like X was alluding to it on the podcast and said, we had a list of midfielders in the summer, key midfield targets. I think one was Paqueta, the other was James Ward-Prowse, and I think the other was a winger. And this was for the same position. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so what the fuck do you want? Like, you want a free kick merchant? You want someone that's good free kicks? You want someone that's going to get in behind, creator? What do you want? But it's almost like they don't care about that side of it. It's like, it's just as long as we've got a midfielder in, we'll just put them in and hopefully, fingers crossed, it works. And I just think we're experiencing it again, mate, with SCAMACCA. It's just another striker that's joined the club and he's going, well, I don't fit this fucking system, so this is not going to work.
It's just such a strange situation. I mean, I think we knew this season we were going to have to adapt to the way we were going to play. We couldn't play the same counter-attacking system anymore because it just simply wasn't working. Teams were, dropping back too much, and as penning us in, we weren't able to break them down in the box. So, we decided to bring in a player who's going to be better at build-up play, have a good shot on him, and just be able to drop into the space a little bit more. And SCAMACCA is perfect for that. He really suits a 3-4-3 sort of system. He suits being a lone striker. He's able to drop in and allow wingers like Bowen and Benrahma to come into the game. So he fits the kind of system Moyes wanted, and then Moyes kind of just backtracked and went to the same system and and keeps insisting we try and, you know, play on the counter and playing behind it. It just doesn't work for us. It really doesn't. Teams are just too wise to it now. You know, they just pen themselves in the box and think, well, West Ham are going to break us down, are they? They're just going to, you know, chuck the ball in the box and hope Thomas Souček scores his first goal of the fucking season. It just doesn't work. So to me, I just think it's so. I mean, there's got to be something going on behind the scenes, mate, that we don't know about. There's got to be Sullivan, you know, signing some of these players. There's got to be some sort of debacle. Maybe it's Newman. Maybe Newman insisted that Scamacca's the guy for you, Moyes, and you have to sign him, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, he bought Vlasic on deadline day and just refused to play him. He loaned Kraut and refused to play him. He's bought Scamacca for 35 million, just refuses to play him. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I just hope the situation resolved, because I think we really rue missing out on a player like Scamacca.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, you know, to sort of wrap this up a little bit, I think it just highlights as well the need for this club for a change, big changes. And I'm not just talking the manager. I think top to bottom, owners, everything. Get rid of the captain, get rid of everything. Just scrap what we've done, because whatever the plan is, it doesn't work. The recruitment strategy doesn't work. Everything, the system they're trying to play doesn't work. Everything's just not quite connecting. I think the club just needs a real refresh, because whatever is in place is just simply not. It's not in tune with each other. Do you know what I mean? Whatever the manager wants isn't happening. The players that are coming in aren't quite fitting the system and all this. I mean, how many times have we heard that phrase, that they don't fit our system? I mean, what other clubs have this problem? I mean, they continue buying players that don't fit. It's just really odd, really bizarre. And sadly with Scamacca, mate, I just think it's only going one way. I really do.
Yeah, it does seem that way, does it, mate?
It does, sadly.